Okay, so having not been very successful with that DSPIAE Reciprocal Sander, back to manual approach this time. And I've found that this one is pretty tidy. One of these Ultimate 180 grip sponge sanders. I've done most of the legwork here with that, and it's worked really very well. You just get that right into the angle there, and that's taken away most, if not all of that, that seam. However, there's a tiny bit here between the edge of the flap, which I'm gonna leave this gap here because you know, I'm assuming there would be some sort of gap there because that's a flap. But there's this little section here just ahead of that that needs a bit of filling, and all I've done here is get my little mix of cyano and talc mix, just a little 50-50 mix. Just get a little bit of this on the top of that. Just drop that into that join there. Doesn't need to be a huge amount, just enough to fill the gap, which it's nearly done. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then the same on this side, if I can probably see that just a little bit clearer. Oh, I think hopefully there, just a little bit there. Okay, so why do I mix a bit of talcum powder in with the cyano? Well, because it means that the cyano will sand a lot quicker than if you don't. Basically, that's the reason I do it. A little bit of this accelerator, a little bit of kicker. Long since lost the bristles that go with that, but that's fine. We'll just touch that into the gap like so. That should have just gone in there. A little bit on this side. There you go, that's in there. Yeah, which is fine. Just blow that to evaporate the excess. And we'll just leave that. I'll just leave that for about 10 minutes, and then we should be able to sand that very, very easily, and that should clean up the joint on both of those sides, I think, quite nicely. And then of course we're left with this underside here. Much the same, I think, is what I'm going to do here. Just use a fairly heavy duty sander like this one, this 180 again, and just get all this out of the way and just take back most of that. You could put some filler all on the front edge maybe, but I don't know, I just think that's such a heavy step that I'm going to use this to start with. I'm not fussed about losing any of this detail. We can always add a little bit of that, certainly the main scribed lines, but the rest of it I'm not fussed about, to be honest with you. Life's too short. This Revel plastic is actually quite good to work with. It's firm enough to be nice and easy to scribe, but it's also soft enough to be able to sand reasonably well, which is good. I'm just looking to get rid of the most of that step with this, and I'm sure we're going to need a bit of filler, otherwise we'll end up with this sort of rather odd looking step over here, and we don't really want that. But I just want to get rid of some of the worst of that step now. So you can see there, that's coming quite nicely. Certainly reducing all the time, so not far off. In hindsight, probably what I should have done was look harder and spend a bit more time trying to work out how I could improve the fit. without having the need for as much of this sanding, but hey ho. It wasn't obvious at all how I could have achieved that for the time I did spend. So there we are, but I don't care. This is fine. This is actually coming on quite nicely now. We may only need the minimal amount of filler here, if indeed we need it at all. I thought I'd just keep the video running for this, just to give you a rough idea, you know, of how some of this stuff actually pans out in the real world. I could have done a lovely big review, couldn't I, of that DSPIAE Sander. I've got to be honest with you, I'm disappointed with that. I think it's quite a significant amount of design over substance, to be honest with you. Basically, it's just not powerful enough. I charged it fully to 100%. And as soon as you put any pressure on it at all, you saw it just slowed and slowed and slowed. So I'm not a great fan of that bit of kit, but it might be useful for getting into really tricky places when you haven't got as much work to do, if you see what I mean. But then, you know, I'm not sure I wouldn't just use normal traditional means. But then, hey ho, whatever. Okay, so that's coming on now. So I'm actually not far off that. That's not going to need filler at all. So I'm just going to carry on and just tidy up this joint here. The scalpel will be able to just neaten up those edges for those kind of, I don't know if they're actually intakes or not, really, of some sort of ducting. But we'll deal with that. So coming on quite nicely there.